Hello, I'm your friend Dylan, and I've signed my contract. My soul is tied to skate. I will eat every moon. I will... what are the other ones? Forget it. Can I just do some tricks, please? Hello, and welcome back to Your Friend Who Likes Games. Today, I'm going to be talking about a game that I absolutely devoured called Sektori. It's pretty popular right about now. It's one of those games that a lot of the professionals are bummed that it is such a good game so late in the year, as they're trying to catch up to all the other games that they're supposed to play. But this unprofessional here is quite enjoying a late bloomer here in Sektori, a game that I saw hype for a long time ago, curious about what it was, expected it to be something different, and it really blew me away. I'm excited to talk about it today. But before I do, of course, we're going to get into the For Your Wishlist section of the podcast, where I talk about some games to think about playing or to add to your wish list. And today I want to start with one that is called Howl. I've been seeing some fellow creators on Instagram and socials dipping into this one. I want to give a shout out to internet pal Chris, who goes by Honest Indies. They have been giving this one a go, and I was able to ask them some questions about it. And but basically, before I get into that, I'll say that it is a self-titled Souls-like deck builder in which it has a really cool art style. Kind of has this like death forward, very kind of dark spirits in the woods kind of feel to it. It's got a grid-based kind of tactics gameplay to it. The art style is what really caught me, and then again, I've been seeing that people play it, so I reached out and asked Chris, and they were talking about how, 4 hours in, it's a tough game. I'm not sure if it's for me in that way. There's a lot of, it seems like, the deck building part, and they had mentioned that there's a lot of grind to it that it feels like you need to have. So I asked about motivation, and so far the motivation's there to keep going. But the world alone looks really incredible, and I'm curious more to. I have to try the demo still, and see what the kind of tactics like, or card-based tactics, grid-based kind of gameplay is. But here's the Steam description. It's just probably more precise than what I've been saying. It says, master the grid, defy death, enter a grim spirit realm in this open world deck builder. Craft lethal decks from 160 plus cards, claim powerful totems, and defeat foes in tactical grid combat. Fight as the desperate hunter Ro to bring back her son from beyond the veil. Looks awesome. I'll have to try a demo and see if it clicks. And one that I think, however difficult, might be motivating enough to play if the gameplay is cool. So, yeah, definitely looking to check that one out. And one that just came out December 9th. Again, that is Howl. So, give that a look. Another one that has kind of been on my radar and is finally out in a late release again. I don't want to keep saying late release. It doesn't matter to me when games are released. I think I keep hearing that language, so I'm using that language. But to me, release in December. I have plenty of time, or more time to play video games in the colder months as it gets dark at 5 here. So keep them coming. Regardless, that game is Unbeatable. And I'm going to read the Steam description for that one. I'm going to start there. Unbeatable is a rhythm adventure where music is illegal and you do crimes. Follow the story of Beat and her band on the run in a narrative experience full of big emotions powered by arcade flawless rhythm gameplay. And I don't know much more than that, than the premise. Looks to be like a really sweet anime looking story about where music is illegal. I'm not sure why, but the art style looks great, and it looks to fit in that genre of a game I played earlier this year. Let me find the title of that. Oh my goodness, I cannot think of that. After Love EP is the name of that. And yeah, it looks to be a strong story, maybe fun anime vibes, cool world, and the reason for the illegality I'm instantly curious of. And I don't mind a rhythm game. Rhythm games are fun. So yeah, might check that one out as well. And the last one I recently heard about is called Sektori. That's Sektori. And the Steam description there reads, Sektori is an intense, fast-paced twin-stick shooter infused with hard-hitting techno music. A game where the high adrenaline gameplay, visuals, and music come together to transport you into another state of consciousness. And I could see where that could happen. Griffin McElroy on the Besties had mentioned how this is not a game you want to play before bed. There's a lot of flashing lights and just this kind of trance-like gameplay where it's very intense, very twitchy, kind of looks and reminds me, I mean, a twin-stick shooter, you know, they compared it to Geometry Wars. That's something I'm not quite familiar with, but it looks like it fits the realm of mini-shoot adventures that I've played, or Star of Providence is the other one I'm thinking of. So, and it looks to be that the arenas are constantly shifting. So the spaces that you occupy and get to use are shifting, and that influences how enemies come at you. And mixed with music kind of gives this like Tetris effect kind of feel. So interesting, and one that I think is going to be exciting to play when I feel like I have the energy for it. And the focus, kind of like mullet Mad Jack twitchiness to it, where you gotta check your relationship to it probably here and there. So yeah, that's the For Your Wishlist section. Today we're going to talk, or we did talk about Death Howl, Unbeatable, and Sektori. Those will be listed in the show notes as always. And then when I come back after this quick break, we are going to talk about Skate Story. Looking forward, and thank you. All right, we are back to talk about Skate Story. And yeah, like I said before, this is a game that I just devoured. I really enjoyed it. It is a game that changed my expectation of what I thought it was going to be, and I'll kind of get into that as I talk about like the demo into my own gameplay. But basically what it is a skateboarding game, but it's also like a narrative game in which you play as this demon that has been summoned, or you play as this demon that wakes up, and you know, you have this contract that you randomly take on to eat moons, because moons are the thing that keep people, they keep demons and souls awake. So the kind of why doesn't seem to matter to you right away, but it gives you a reason to skateboard. And the reason being that like you can't walk and run to the moon quickly, but instead you can skate there. Yeah, so it had way more of a story than I thought. I kind of expected this game to just be like a skateboarding game in which you went through these kind of linear paths and did some kickflips here and there and vibed out to this kind of hellscape. But it's a lot more than that. The storytelling is really poetic and creative, and the environments are stellar. Very, very unique. Like the kind of mix of this imagined like nighttime hellscape with like urban skate environments is really cool. This game is on PlayStation 5. It is on Windows and Steam and Mac operating systems, which is cool too. So this is something I've been wanting to try to put at the front of the show. I know I sometimes talk about games and like just go, but if they're available to you or not based on where you're playing, there you are. and yeah, like I said, my expectation was way different than what it actually was. It was a lot more than I expected. It was more of a video game narrative experience than I expected. Because I think the major selling points are the skateboardingness of this game. And I want to say early when I played the demo, I quickly recognized a bias that I have with any sort of skateboarding game. For me, it could not escape early a Tony Hawk comparison, a Skater XL comparison, or a EA Skate comparison. And a lot of my natural kind of muscle memory with those types of games came through. And it was something that was really tough to kind of swim through early. I think the Tony Hawkness made me desire that like kind of quick, snappy, that like more arcadey gameplay. And then the Skater XL and EA Skateness of it, kind of like, I haven't played any of those games in a long time, but like a lot of that is ingrained in me when I play a skateboarding game, and then I'm expecting to hit a certain button to push. I'm expecting to flick the sticks in order to do a trick. And this game has a very different controller scheme in regards to the skateboarding. And it doesn't assume that you know how to play a skateboarding game. So for someone that does know how to play a skateboarding game, I found myself very impatient early, having to wait to do any sort of tricks or advanced tricks or things like that. So, yeah, I was really judgmental of it early as I played the demo. I was like, oh, that's all it is. We're just skating on these like narrow corridors, and it is way, 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 way more than that. So, want to be very clear about that. And I, again, really recognize my bias right away. But the controller scheme with this one is probably one of the most realistic skateboarding experiences I've had with a controller. And basically what happens is that you push with we'll call it the X button, if we're thinking PlayStation terms. Or the A button. So you push with the X button, and that's how you obviously move forward. And then you hold down circle to like prepare a pop. And then when you let go of circle, you do your ollie. But prior to that, you have your right and left bumper, and then you have your right and left trigger. And you can hit a various combination of those to perform different tricks. And it teaches you this eventually. And if you're listening and want to know how to do some tricks early, here you go. Semi-spoilery. But again, they give you that information quick enough to where you can get doing all sorts of tricks pretty quickly. So for instance, like it will teach you how to do a pop shove it, and you hold the circle button, and then when you let it go, or you hold the circle button, then you hold or tap the bumper, and then when you pop, it will perform that trick, having you like preemptively thought about doing that trick. And more so than some of the other games, like that's kind of how skateboarding works more, than like a Skater XL or, well, see, I don't want to get in the weeds there with like comparison, but a lot of those games have you performing the trick like in the air as like a command, right? And there's still a level of anticipation there. And I think if I'm being extra critical of Skate Story, maybe like I would say that some of those in the like EA Skate or Skater XL realm maybe felt better to execute, and maybe felt a little more physically attached and maybe a little more intuitive. But I think I agree with the folks on Girl Mode, another gaming podcast I've been listening to. They were talking about Skate Story, and they said that this skating is like way more down to earth. And I do agree with that. Like EA Skate, Skater XL, like you can get bonkers with like, and like what I mean by that is like a little more unrealistic than normal in skateboarding. And then with Skate Story, I think it is way more basic, but again, realistic. So where skateboarding is hard for someone that grew up skateboarding, I did like 10 years of skateboarding. It's difficult, and landing a kickflip isn't automatic. And not that you ever fail a trick in this game, but like the pacing and the like preparedness you need to think about your trick before you execute it and like almost command it before you pop it is really accurate. You know, like you might be pushing, and then you're approaching this ramp and be like, oh, it'd be really cool to do like a backside kickflip off that. And then you have to like kind of in a thinky way remember how that works and then do it, and it feels really good to perform it. And I think the other thing with that is very unlike a Tony Hawk, like no trick is completely automatic, so that when you try to do tricks and you like don't execute them in the most stylish way, or you know it doesn't like completely go well, like that's also skateboarding, so that when you do land a trick really smoothly, or you know, catch it in the air and stomp it on the other side of the ramp, like that feels really, really good because you've earned it. And I think this person clearly understands skateboarding. I'd be willing to bet that they have done some skateboarding themselves. Creator Sam Eng, ENG, and yeah, it's very clear that like, because this game's just kind of soaked in not only like the physics of skateboarding, but skateboarding culture as well. So as I said before, like it doesn't assume that you know how to play a skateboard game, and it kind of worried me early because the tutorialization of each of the things feels slow, but appropriate, I think, because you do have to kind of learn this new skateboarding mechanism that is kind of then, and in the process I found myself unlearning natural Tony Hawk tendencies, natural Skater XL tendencies, and skate tendencies that they're just kind of there and assumed with this type of game. But then by the end, I feel like I had figured it out, or felt way more confident in what I was doing. And the sense of like earning that, learning how to skateboard is part of skateboarding, and it definitely felt a part of that here. So aesthetically, like you play as this polygonal skateboarder, and I'm sure you may have seen clips of it, but if you haven't, do check it out. You play as this like glass soul that is a skateboarder, and you are like quite literally see-through and also like refracting all of the light and color that is around you. So any environment that you are in, you are quite literally like a part of it, and it's gorgeous. I don't know how they pulled that off or what they did to program that, but it's excellent. The art style is just impeccable to look at and be a part of. The variety of the worlds is huge. There you can see in trailers where you kind of skate these narrow pathways, and then you go through all of these portals, and then the portals will send you like to a completely different place, and it's like a short snippet of a skatable spot, and you hit another portal and you're in another place, and that visual variety is really exciting, and it makes for a not boring at all game. The game felt really good to keep playing, but you know, with the writing and the skateboarding and all of like the whole experience was a complete art experience. The physicality of the skateboarding, the skateboard culture, the art style in which he's kind of handcrafted this moonlit hell that is also an urban skate environment, like just unique and exciting. And like, I was thinking before I recorded this episode of like, it might be a tad recency bias, but like this is definitely one of the best games I've played this year. and I'm, looking at my list of notables, like it's one that it was really exciting to play, really thorough all the way through, and just like well done. I noted that the real game is way more dialed and like responsive than the demo, and I find to be, of course, the demo felt a little draggy in regards to skateboard rolling, and the real game like really let it rip. So that's something of note if you're playing the demo and not sure. The physicality, I think, is definitely improved. The crash animation is really rad, and it's hinted at in the demo. You can see when you run into something, you not only like your character just completely shatters into a bunch of glass, and then the camera angle is almost as if like either the skateboarder that is following you as like your filmer drops the camera and it just like rolls and rolls, or it goes to like the head of your skater and your soul, or like from like a first person view just like kind of rolls and tumbles as if like you fell from a very fast pace and tumbled in the dirt or the concrete. And it's just rad. I thought it was a really cool choice, and I don't know how they came to that conclusion to make it that way, but it looks great. Speaking of looks great, it looks and plays really good on Steam Deck. I was impressed with that. Seems like a game that would melt my Steam Deck. It got hot, but like only in like boss fights when there was a whole lot going on did I see some kind of like frame lag, and he almost gets away with it in regards to that kind of like lagginess. Like there's enough like slow motion moments in the game that I think are purposefully placed to kind of counteract that kind of overwhelmingness that the game has. So it all really works. I didn't find it to be frustrating in any way. Somebody that might be really picky might notice. It played a little smoother on PC and I enjoyed it there, but like I thought the Steam Deck experience was like really impressive for what the game is, this like 3D rendered world, and one that needs like smooth physicality. And so like speaking of things that feel very like skate culture-y, there is like when you pause the pause menu or into the pause menu, it looks like you pause like a VHS skate tape, and whatever you're doing in the game looks like it's a part of the movie. I thought that was really cool. There are like gift shops in a lot of the kind of open area skate areas that have various things that you might find in a skate store. So like various wheels that you can purchase, various decks that you can purchase. I really, really, really liked the sticker vending machine that was like the old ones I used to see at like Mark's. And if you're an Ohio person, you know what Mark's is. It's just your basic like local grocery store. But they had those. It had illustrated one of those vending machines that had like the 4 quarters that you would like slot into it, push forward, and they would take the quarters. And then when you pulled out, you would get a sticker that would come out. And collecting stickers at each one of those was really cool, and you could just slap them on your deck. I really like the mechanic of it because your sticker would kind of float above your skateboard deck, and you would try to place it in a specific spot, but it was very sticker slappy, so you had to like hold down the A button, and then it kind of created this passive like customization where you are just like slapping a sticker on the bottom of the board, knowing you're going to destroy that board and it doesn't really matter that much anyway. Instead of getting all like customization-y and taking forever to find the perfect spot for your sticker, you just slap it on and like keep moving. I thought that was really smart and intentional to kind of mimic the culture of like, oh, I got three Spitfire stickers for my wheels. I'll just slap them on the bottom of my board because I don't want to deal with it. That it matches. Again, skateboard culture. Another big one is the nod to Arizona 99-cent iced tea was awesome. The way they do it in game is hilarious. They call it like bile tea or something like that. And if you remember, if any of you have or still do drink that stuff, it just kind of tastes like sweet metal for 99 cents. And I remember going to skate parks, and that was the drink of choice because it was only $1 at gas stations. So you'd get a couple of those and just fill up on sugar. Yeah, real healthy stuff. But not only that, like I mentioned, like the fact that there are not only this like hellscape look to it, but there is these real world elements to the game where you find that you would find in like urban skate environments. You know, like there are ledges that are mixed with little tentacle feet that like walk around, and then when you get close to them, they plant themselves into the ground, and then you can grind them, which is sick. There's like all sorts of scaffolding. There are traffic barriers. There are little ramps. All really beautifully mixed into this kind of dreamlike aesthetic that makes it look like a moonlit underworld. It's again very clear, and I think this person's working out of New York City, so they live in an urban environment, and have participated clearly in like urban skateboarding, and that definitely comes through. So I had mentioned open areas, and I really think like the pace of this game is really smart in that you kind of get your toes wet with skateboarding, kind of dip into the physicality, burn through a couple of the portals to end up in different areas to show that it can offer you some variety. You got to turn and not hit the obstacles and things like that. And then once you start to learn tricks, and it gives you like the basics of each trick and how to do it, then it puts you in the first like open area. And I loved that because like they know that you're going to be really curious about the skateboarding and like want to skate and like want to learn how to use the controller scheme. And that was pretty brilliant. Like, and then each time you learn something new, it would do that. It would put you in an open area and you could just play around. And I found myself just like wanting to skate and wanting to go about the open area. And then you played and just had fun skateboarding for a bit. And then had this really nice feature that was called Moon Vision. And when you had kind of finished whatever sort of like play or session and you're like, okay, let's move on to the quest line, you could hit the Moon Vision and it would take your camera and quickly zoom to the next spot that you're supposed to go to, or the next like indoor area, or the next like quest task or person you're supposed to talk to. And then sometimes there'd be like 3 of those listed, and then you would do that. And then you could move about the story in the pace that you would like, in between play and continuing. The story, I'm going to say you just have to experience. The main premise again was that the demons can't sleep in hell because the moons keep them awake because they're so bright. So your contract with the devil was to, eat every moon. Why? We're not sure, but again, maybe to get some rest, and it didn't really matter. But the story is very, again, poetic, strange, existential, and interpretive. I thought it was like really interesting and one to experience for yourself. Nothing I really can wrap too many words around that wouldn't be too spoilery. I just encourage to pay attention to that part, and I'm curious if people also that are talking about like the vibey skateboarding part of this game, if they are also enjoying the story as much as I did. I just think and it's a easy bias for me, but this one was a home run like all the way around, aesthetically, story-wise, writing, the poetry of it, and the skateboarding, of course. I didn't mind too. I like a game that early on tells you like how long it is. It tells you how many moons you have to eat. And if you're curious, I'll let you look that up. But it's just nice that like it communicates kind of the distance And I played all the way through this game in 10 hours, and I think that's a perfect amount of time. That's like my ideal game run. Kind of get into it, get engaged, and then see the arc and come back down and then be done. But I'm curious if I would ever pick this one back up just to skate around in it. And speaking of skating around, like I noted multiple times that like I found myself just playing, like just skating, and a lot of it just enjoying skating. And it had plenty of open areas and time and space for you to do that. And again, the pacing of that I think was really smart. The kind of story beats or these kind of narrow hallways you have to navigate in order to like take out or travel to another spot to fight a boss, those are fairly quick. But I think the majority of the time I was spent, just figuring out the game and skating around and having fun. I do wish that you could switch your stance. Like you can, your default stance is goofy. And for those of you that aren't familiar with what that means that when you skateboard, your right foot is forward and your left foot is back. I skated regular, which was left foot forward and right foot back. You can switch to that stance, but your character was then doing quote unquote like switch tricks. And I don't know if they did them more or less confidently. It felt like the regular was a little more confident. Maybe that was in my head. But it'd be cool to just switch your default stance. But that's just being extra picky. I still had a great time with it. There's this like dreamlike area that is kind of your like hub if you want to save basically, or like travel to another area. You can hit pause and it says you can escape to the skater's dream. And you could like change your board there and skate around if you want. But I thought it was cool. Like the music in this game is stellar. And the band that does it, forgive me, I think it's Blood something. Yikes, I should have had that ready to go. I don't. I'm sorry. But they have like a music video that you could play on your little TV that's in your dream area and just kind of sit and watch it. And I'm just like, what a cool celebration of art, a cool way to celebrate the folks that made the game for them, and it or made the music for the game, and it really fits the kind of artsy aesthetic. There's another thing that makes this game really great too, and you could tell that the person that made it enjoyed, like if you take moments to look around and like read some of the things that are placed within some of the worlds, you get rewarded. Like there is a giant memorial wall listing human sins, and I found it to be so excellent. I took a moment to like sit there and read, and like some of them were so funny, like don't leave laundry dry out in the cold, or signing up for a yoga class and then not going, or using caps lock for an extended period of time. Like that was just like some good humor, and like didn't have to be there, but it was, and just is a little nugget that like I think most players might not pay attention to, but then when they do, if you take a look at it, it's like rendering the details in anything in a movie or a game, but like having folks like really appreciate those things. I certainly do. So I think it was worth the time and energy, even though it may have been tedious, maybe not. I don't know much about game development, unfortunately, but yeah. I think this game does a good job at reminding you that like skateboarding is a relationship to your board. And unlike a Tony Hawk where you can just press any button and do any trick on demand, if you don't land the 180 quite right, like you'll kind of scoot and lose your speed, or it's not as smooth as you would want it to be, that you can't just hit random buttons and then see what happens. And like, so it makes you appreciate the tricks that are being done because you have to think about them beforehand and anticipate and then execute them. And again, very down to earth skateboarding, very much like skateboarding itself, and realistic in that way. And the thing that made me think of this too was like, I loved that, and I didn't really pay attention to this much, but there was like this little meter on the bottom that for various tricks had a shape that this little light would like travel around, almost like a car around a track. And then like if you popped in the little window that was lit up, then that was like the perfect time to do that trick, or pop that trick. It was really strange. But if you did that, the tricks that you executed would be like perfect. You'd catch them really high in the air and slap them down, which is like really stylish in skateboarding. But if you didn't, and I often didn't, you would get to that point where you would kind of, I did this when I was skateboarding, like you would get way above your trick and then the board would kind of fall to the ground before you, and it didn't look as stylish. It looked like you kind of barely executed it. And then your skater in this game will like kind of barely keep their balance when you land a trick like that. And it just, again, another thing that reminds you that like it is a relationship to the board and you're not like always in full control. But then really appreciate when you are, and can be stylish and smooth. I would be really curious to see a making of this game. I know he took a while to develop it. In the credits, it thanked some coffee baristas for letting him hang out for 4 hours while making the game. So like I don't know if there's like a whole lot of like footage or anything, but I'm just like, I wrote that like it may have used like practical effects a lot. It looks like they were really clever with how they put things together, how they created cinematics, where they put things and why, but it still communicated like the intention. Because like not everything is like completely animated. Like you eat moons and they just kind of shrink smaller. But like there's a charm to that sort of creativity where they're not using AI assets. Hopefully, I don't think there is in this game. I don't know if it's got the stamp. I'm looking. Not sure, but it doesn't seem like there is, right? It seems like this is a completely handmade thing. Maybe, of course, assets used here and there, but yeah, just it's got that like practical effect vibe to it that I really appreciate in regards to art and handmadeness, and it makes it a lot easier for me to connect to. I would say too, like I noted in regards to art style that like it almost had like in the like walkie around interactive indoor scenes, kind of had like a Arctic Eggs vibe to it. Maybe not as crude, but like definitely that level of kind of weirdness. And yeah, I think it fits right in. There are definitely, I had mentioned Tony Hawk, and obviously any skateboarding game cannot escape a Tony Hawk comparison, but there's some Tony Hawk-ish winks in this game, like finding letters floating, that is like an objective at one point, or doing a task to like what's like a mundane task like drying out laundry, but like if you grind for 30 seconds you can dry out the laundry. Like mundane tasks that are elevated by skating them. Feels very like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4, where I need to do this, grind up on that telephone wire so that you can reach it, or whatever, like that kind of stuff. I had noted, and I think they need to be, but I had noted that I kind of wish that the boss fights weren't timed. You get like a clock in the upper right hand corner, and you have to like try to take down that boss before the time runs out. And I think only because like you end up rushing and you don't do it stylistically. And any skateboarder wants to perform stylish, right? Like they want to execute their tricks the right way. And I find myself like desperate and just like stomping a little kickflip in order to get a health bar thing to go down. It's kind of cool the way the mechanics work with like fighting bigger things is like you'll have a moon where it is casting some sort of lit light shadow. I'll call it a shadow, but it's like an illumination on the ground. And basically if you stomp a trick or a combo inside of that circle, then it does damage to them. But with the clock, I found myself like rushing to try to just get damage down. So I was doing it more practically than performatively and trying to get it done like quickly. But it adds to like a sort of tension and makes it more video gamey than skateboard focused. And there's plenty of time to free skate and get your style in. But yeah, and some of those sequences too of the boss fights and those like bigger events that happen just have a ton going on in regards to lighting and physicality and environmental change that you're like constantly reacting to the point where it becomes less about doing the tricks that you desire to do, but more about just like trying to do tricks in these crazy like gaps and obstacles. And I think you get to a point where the simplicity of this game's tricks kind of shines there, because like if you can kickflip down that thing over these like fiery spikes and land it, like you feel good about that. You feel like you survived, like you took a risk and survived, because otherwise, like it's again not automatic. It's not arcade. You'll fall and crash, which is a skateboard thing, but respawns you real quick, and then you're back into the action. But it kind of invites you to take risks, like, and see about if you could do that varial flip down that thing, and if you do, you're like, ooh, look at me, and you're kind of ripping down this hill while, you know, again, lights are flashing, new things are showing up, things you have to jump over and break through. It's all very, very engaging, and that's where the balance of like the video game component really comes into play in conversation with the fast-paced skateboarding that you're doing. Just excellent. Ooh, and like I mentioned that moon vision earlier, where if you are ready to move on and complete the next goal or quest line, you can click on it and it will show you like what to do next. And sometimes the other side of the coin happens, where if you get too quick to that, when you end up in a new area where you're like, what am I supposed to do? What do I do next? And if you get too like goal driven like that, for a while it will just in the moon vision say skate, all in like all caps. And I think that's just encouraging you to like just play a little bit, like explore, skate around. And most of the time that means like, one, skate around and explore the new area, and two, like when you find the thing that you're supposed to find, like a cutscene will happen, but it doesn't want you just like going straight to there and like missing all of the like skatable stuff. Ooh, a couple final like skate culture notes that I noticed here. And if you play this and know what I'm talking about, holler at me, because I think there's a definite brand new band reference in here, like a parody of lyric. If you've played, or if you do play and you notice it, let's talk. And the other one was like, there are various moments where your soul is like resting in a quote unquote apartment or living space. And it is so skatery. Like the skateboarders that I have known and the places that they have lived, like all they care about is skateboarding. And so they have like a bed and maybe something to drink and like a TV either like on the floor or on a very cheap like entertainment center. And they illustrate that really well. Maybe a poster or two on the wall, and I was like, yes, like this is skate culture, and that matches the vibe for sure. But I wrote down too, like I said earlier, no recency bias here. I genuinely think this is one of the best games I played this year. Mainly because it's like 100% for me, skateboarding, this like artsy hell story about existence, and it has like no compromises. Like I don't find that I had anything I had to tolerate with this game. Like I enjoyed all of it. And the only thing, and the thing that I nitpicked for me early was like my bias with other skateboarding games, and it's kind of fight against that. But if you take the time that it demands from you demands from you, if you take the time, it teaches you how to play the game, and then you really learn how to skateboard in this world. And I wrote many times, like, it is just so good. Like the reprisals are amazing in this game. The last hour kind of going through and finding, some things that are familiar and kind of makes that like full circle moment is really good. And I love the 10-hour mark. I thought that was perfect. And I think lastly put, like, this game was very visceral. I think it was a complete like visual vibey experience that kind of is sticking with me physically. It felt really good to skate in, like I said, but like the art style was just so capturing, and the pace and the story and some characters you meet along the way are all things that really stick with you. So yeah, when you get the chance, highly recommend Skatestori if this looks like it's for you. Overwhelmingly positive in the first week, 97%, 730 reviews. This is just, it's December 13th. It came out December 8th. And I'll also be one of those people that say that this one is for sure one to play if you are at all into any sort of skateboarding game. Or maybe if not, like it is paced enough to teach you how to play it. And if it looks interesting, give it a go. That's Skatestori. And thanks for listening thus far. When I come back, I got a couple other things that I've been thinking about as we head into the conclusion of the year. And that'll be this episode. Thanks. All right, welcome back for some other stuff. Today on the other stuff section here, I want to shout out an artist that I've known of for a while. She's a local artist here in Akron, Ohio, near where I live. And her name is Lizzi Aronhalt. That's Aronhalt. You can find her work on Instagram or online. She does these really colorful and like loosely shaped, basically like cityscape paintings that have like bright neon colors. And the reason I bring her up is, one, I've used her in my teaching practice a few times because her work's stellar and full of color and really easy to be a hook for elementary students. But she has work up at our local coffee shop, and I was stoked to see it in person. And it's just different in person. Seeing a painting in person, the vibrancy of the color, the scale, the size, and I couldn't stop staring at it when I was waiting for my drink to be made. Because we see a ton of things online. We see a ton of images online. We see paintings, and but it's nothing beats being in person and seeing the physicality of it. Again, the vibrancy of color like really comes through, the paint strokes, and kind of standing among it feels really great. So yeah, if you are interested in art or visuals at all, and or just want a cool follow to see some creative process. I mean, she just finished up a mural in Cleveland this past summer. Lizzi Aronhalt, and again, that's Aronhalt. Her name will be listed in the show notes. And lastly, as we look to wrap up the year, we're halfway through December, and there's all sorts of releases coming out, which I want to be clear that I'm very okay with. But I will say, like, what sounds good right now is to kind of keep playing Demon School. I didn't realize that game was like 30 plus hours, and there's like a lot more to it than my initial like 14 I've put in. It's really fun. I'm kind of excited to revisit. But I've also, like, with the release of Kirby Air Riders and the fact that I do not have a Nintendo Switch 2, got me thinking of like Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It's kind of one of those that's been sitting on the backlog for me, and my wife and I played a majority of it, but we never finished it. Might be something that I might tap into. I never got to play as Kirby, so I'm kind of interested to see what that's like. But I don't know going forward. There's a slew of good games that are coming out, I think, at a good time for maybe not media people. Again, like I said, professionals are very focused on the kind of game of the year and, wrapping things up and concluding their final thoughts of their game of the year lists and things like that. And I think for, common consumers, it's nice to have releases in December because a lot of us are getting time off or taking time off and would like something exciting and maybe new to play. And in the indie space, I think that's great. I think that could be a awesome time for a game to shine in an unexpected time, and have a little more eyes on it than some that get very drowned out in the like early fall area. So yeah, who knows what will happen going forward. Like I said, thinking about Demon School, maybe Kirby and the Forgotten Land. But anytime I have placed any sort of expectation on the end of the show here, it usually changes. So we'll see what happens next time we talk. But thank you for listening and taking a moment or a part of your day to give this show a try. And those of you that continue listening, I'm very thankful. Please keep engaging and chatting with me if you can. It's cool to hear from you and just engage over games. And I know I say that most weeks, but I don't want my gratitude to slip. I want you to know that I'm very thankful that people engage in this. So if you're playing anything cool and you are, or you're curious about anything, reach out at Your Friend Who Likes Games on Instagram, or you can comment here on the episode on Spotify. And if you have been listening for a while, or if you've listened and you like what you hear, please consider giving a rating on Spotify. That helps the show's visibility and helps me connect with more people that like games, or more friends that like games. So again, keep playing the good stuff, and we will talk to you next time. Thank you so much. Have a great holiday if you are currently celebrating or looking to celebrate. Be safe and enjoy. Cheers.